let's just get into it. I literally just now finished watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 on Netflix. It was directed by David Blue Garcia and written by Alvarez and Rodo Sagias? Forgive me. And the movie launched on Netflix in the US February 18th, 2022, which is today that I'm filming this. It was a lot of different things. The film essentially follows a group of influencers looking to breathe new life into an old Texas ghost town where they accidentally stumble upon Leatherface. Now, I don't want to give any spoilers out for this movie, but there's a lot of setting that confuses me. One, I believe the town that this is set in is completely different. The Sawyer home isn't the Sawyer home. In fact, I don't really think they talk about the Sawyers outside of the beginning of the film. And really, it's just Leatherface that is mentioned. He's not the only one in his family that's crazy and has been a regular through past films. I know since like 2010, we've only really focused on his story, but honestly, I feel like other members of his family are a little bit more interesting. I feel like Leatherface is just the weapon that his family wields, so having it just be Leatherface doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't think he's necessarily meant to be fully cognizant. I think that he's very childlike and does what Papa tells him to do. And in this one, he's much more intelligent, which I like. He does a lot of really great traps almost. And there's a lot of things that this film solved for me that I didn't like with the original. Fun fact, I only recently watched the original film as an adult. I've only seen it as a child, and it wasn't for me. I loved horror movies as a child, but not Leatherface or Texas Chainsaw. I remember, in my memory, the original movie was a lot gorier and disgusting, and upon my rewatch of the original, it's none of those things. Nothing really happens on camera, which is really confusing for me because of the memory I have in my head of the film. It's really gory. So I kind of was disappointed with that with the rewatch. I know that's the intention. I believe the original director wanted to get a PG rating. But this film solves that for me. There's a lot of gore, like a lot. There's even guts spilling out at one point, and it's a lot. And there's a couple different settings in this film that I actually really enjoy. Like, there's a lot of in-vehicle scenes. Like, they're in a bus, they're in a couple different cars. Like, it's really interesting to me because I don't think outside of Cujo, a majority of a film has been shot in a car like that. There's a couple, I believe, of people being buried in snow or whatever, but like slashers. So that really did it for me. But another thing that I kind of liked about this film is that they try to make you empathize with Leatherface's character more so than in the other films. I know in the first one, you felt a little sorry for him, but mostly you're fucking terrified. But this one, we spent like the first 30 or 40 minutes really empathizing with him and feeling bad for the situation that he's in, and what's going on with him, and really disliking the protagonists in this film. I don't know if we were supposed to like them. I didn't like them at all. I was kind of rooting for Leatherface to kill them. There's a lot of beautiful cinematography and coloring in this film. I'm probably going to overlay some shots here if I can. So that really drew me in some scenes that were kind of dragging out. We do have the return of a legacy character. I'm not going to say who it is, but a legacy character from the franchise, and it was really interesting to see what they did with the character. I was kind of disappointed. I feel like they were wasted. I really wanted them to have like a Jamie Lee or a Courtney Cox moment, you know, and I just don't feel like they got that. I know that this movie is already getting a lot of bad press, and I think that's from a lot of die-hard fans from the Texas Chainsaw franchise. And since I'm not a die-hard fan and I only recently started rewatching the films, I don't think this film bothered me as much as it bothered everyone else. People are walking by. Sorry, I have to wait for them to go for the audio. I don't think that they try to like elevate the franchise or overcomplicate it or make it something that it's not. And its roots, this film still is a slasher movie. It does touch on gentrification, very, very slightly, and gun violence. But, you know, in the end, you have a person who is really against guns wielding one. So I don't think it's too political in any sense. In fact, I think it's kind of meant to be ironic. But like I hinted to earlier, there was a couple things that this installment fixed for me from the original. One, there's not a lot of objectification of women. I know, you're gonna come for me in the comments. Whatever. I don't like it. I think it cheapens the horror film. They don't have that in this one. It's not, you know, like girl power or whatever, but they don't objectify the women in this, which I think makes the storyline more interesting. They kind of develop at least one of the characters a bit more, so you start to empathize with them, which I really appreciate instead of just like having no consequence. Speaking of no consequence, this film, I think, has the highest body count of any of the other installments, which is kind of ridiculous in a sense, and that in itself did cheapen the film a little bit. I was watching the one scene where there was the highest number of kills, and I felt like I was watching like a parody. It was ridiculous. It felt a little bit claustrophobic, maybe, but mostly I was just in shock that the directors made the decision to shoot that way. There was no consequence to any of those deaths. You didn't know any of the characters, but maybe one, and I didn't feel anything when they were getting killed. And a good horror movie should make you at least care just a smidge when someone dies, at least. But the fact that there was just so much death going on all at once, I didn't care. In a way, I'm kind of glad that this film was, you know, straight to streaming because it was a Netflix film. Because had this gone to the box office, I feel like it might have done well for the first 2 days and then just immediately crash based on the reviews. But because it's on a streaming service, there's almost no consequence for someone to just put this on and watch it, which I suggest you do. Just give it your own shot. But like I said, the film doesn't really bother me because I'm not a diehard fan of the franchise. In fact, I think it's a pretty good slasher film. Hits all the marks for me personally. And again, the cinematography, the colors, the scenery, it's really, really well done. Like I said, I have no problem with visuals of this film or even the storyline, really. Just wish there was just a little bit more character development and more thought put into the deaths in this movie. I don't really think there's anything else I can say without spoiling this film. I do suggest that you watch it, and at least just for a laugh. The one scene that I'm talking about, and as soon as it starts happening, you're gonna know what I'm talking about, is absolutely hysterical, and it's good for a laugh. That's it, I guess.